You're watching Live Now from Fox. We want to bring to you a story that we have been tracking here throughout the months. A jury today acquitting Brett Hankison of all three counts of felony wanton endangerment in the botched raid that left Breonna Taylor dead. Hankison, just 45 years old, tried for firing bullets through Taylor's window and sliding glass door that went into a neighboring apartment where three people were present. The defense argued that Hankison acted to defend his fellow officers, including one who had been shot in a chaotic situation. I want to bring in now Karen Charrington. She is a former prosecutor and trial attorney. And Karen, with this today, with this verdict, the not guilty verdict, were you surprised?
To be honest, I really was not surprised, with knowing that the grand jury in Kentucky failed to indict the other two officers. I sort of figured that we may get this result, unfortunately. As you know, this officer was charged with what you'd call reckless endangerment, so wanton endangerment, by firing over, I believe, 10 shots or so at the door of Breonna Taylor. And although his gun and the firing of his gun did not cause the death of Breonna Taylor, he did shoot into the window and the doors of other residents nearby. And that was one of the reasons why he was charged, is that he was just firing so wantonly that he could have killed someone else. So that was really the issue. And the jurors, I believe, stated that they believed that the officer was attempting to save his fellow officer from oncoming firing. So that was sort of the reasoning behind the jury's verdict today. But I'm not really surprised.
So had he been found guilty, what would he have faced? What would penalty look like in this case?
Well, in Kentucky, there'd be a penalty phase. So it really depends. There's a wide range of what his sentence would look like. So depending on what his attorneys would propose and add as mitigating circumstances, that would give the judge some basis for how he would have sentenced this officer. But as you see now, he won't be facing any time or repercussions for his actions.
Well, we're also hearing that in September, obviously, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron announced that Cosgrove and Mattingly, the other officers, would not be facing charges, saying that their use of force was justified because they were shot at first. So what type of precedent does this leave for future shootings in America?
Well, I mean, this situation was somewhat of a unique situation, right? Because you have officers executing a search warrant and then they're being fired at and they're responding. So typically, if an officer is being fired at, the normal course of action for those officers would be to return fire. So in this case, the problem is that, the allegations that the search warrant may not have been proper and wasn't for that location, and all of those reckless facts coming together is, the problem here, whether or not they announced themselves, which caused, apparently her partner to start fire. So, it's really not a precedent per se, because typically an officer must return fire if they believe they or other individuals are in danger.
All of this, I feel like, was kind of uprooted again because of the Amir Locke shooting, which gained a lot of national attention. A different case, obviously, but still a no-knock search warrant. So what do you see as the future for search warrant cases such as these?
Yeah, well, I mean, already there's been change. There have been many states that have now outlawed no-knock warrants, right? So, unfortunately, because of Breonna Taylor's death, there had to be change. I should say fortunately, but unfortunately that she lost her precious life. But fortunately, change now was brought about where there are many states that are rethinking these no-knock warrants because of this specific type of situation. So I think that we'll see more of that. They see the danger of just entering someone's home to execute a warrant without making themselves known. So I believe that will definitely change the course of how law enforcement executes warrants.
Karen, any last thoughts on this case?
I mean, it's just, the family obviously is suffering by going through these, trials and not finding justice. But the only justice we're hoping will come out of this is that the family will be made whole, there'll be change to the laws, and we'll have to keep trying to make sure there's proper reform so that this never happens again.
All right, Karen Charrington, thank you so much for joining us here on the show, breaking it down.
Yes. Thank you so much and have a great night.